You were my sponsor. You taught me how to pray. What do you mean?
I know Nausheen's mother.
Yeah.
I know.
What episode is Nausheen on? I go, she's a Danielle likes to pray.
Okay, let's pray real quick.
Okay, we need to pray about that one. We hold hands.
Danielle likes to pray.
At least
Let's pray. Dear Father, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for bringing us together. Thank you so much that we're sober. Thank you that we're in service. And thank you that we have this platform to share with others who are still sick and suffering. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Very good. Once again,
She holding it up.
Dang with the mic.
Crazy for crying. I'll do Patsy crying. Crazy
What
for
am I supposed to do with this? What is wrong with We're sober. Y'all, this is sobriety.
This
during
is
the holidays.
good sober fun.
This is sober fun during the holidays. This is how we do
right
it.
place.
All right. Here we
Okay.
go in 3, 2.
Hey y'all, welcome to Silverliningnation, and we are here to do another sober holiday podcast. The other one that we did previously, guys, it went so well, and we know how important it is for those that are out there that are trying to get sober as well as stay sober. We know the struggle that you guys are going through. So what we're doing here tonight, we are sharing our experience with you guys and some tips that perhaps you guys can be able to use, and just sharing how we do it, y'all. So I have with me today, I have Danielle, and Danielle has been on one of the podcasts before, and so guys, make sure you look her up again. And I have Ash, who's another person that's been on the podcast, and I have Linda Jo. Linda Jo, shouts out to Linda Jo, guys. Linda Jo has let us come into her lovely home and be able to do this podcast. Thank you, Linda Jo. Much appreciated. We really thank you. And Nausheen, we have her here, and she's here to share her experience as well, guys. So, you know what? We've been doing a lot of laughing here, y'all, and we're going to do some more here, and we're going to get this show on the road. Hey, y'all, this is Lorene with Silverliningnation, and we are here in London, and we just want to thank you guys for watching our show, and we got so much more coming for you guys, so make sure you guys like, subscribe, and share. Let's start with Linda Jo. Linda Jo, share with us some tips about how you continue to stay sober, especially during the holiday.
I'm Linda Jo, and I've been sober about 20 years. And let's just say I got my Desire chip the same year I got my ARP card, so I was 50. Now, I admire people that can come right in the rooms and get sober. That's not my story. There was an intervention on my life at 50, and don't turn to A&E. It's not on A&E, and it wasn't that exciting, but it was mine. And at 50 years of age, I had to look at myself and realize what alcohol had done. And I ended up in rehab for 34 days, and I needed to be there. I didn't really realize how sick I was until I got out of rehab. And I'd done that, and I asked for, what am I supposed to do? And they said, well, you're going to take this medicine, and you're going to go to 12-step meetings. And I said, I think I can do that. I have other issues besides alcoholism that I need to address for my mental health. And you can probably tell as I continue to talk, I'm a career educator. I taught school for 34 years. But the one thing they told me that was so very important is that, Linda Jo, you speak like a teacher, but remember, when you go to these 12-step meetings, you're not there to teach. Mm-hmm. You're only there to share your experience, strength, and hope. And I think the most important thing that I do is sponsor. 20 years ago, I never thought anybody would want what I have. And I've had the privilege of sponsoring many women from many different backgrounds. And it's helped me stay sober all these years. And my first year sober, they said, don't make any changes. I I stepped out of a 29-year marriage. I didn't just clean house. I sold the house we lived in. That was actually after 2 because I had my 2 youngest to get out of high school. I'm the mother of 3 wonderful men. And today, I have a wonderful relationship with all 3 of my sons. They can trust me. They call me. I'm there for them. And my financial amends to them were showing them how to establish credit. You know, because during my alcoholism, when I'd done something I shouldn't done, they got money if they asked for it. That doesn't happen anymore, you know. I have their respect and they have mine. So there was a lot of things I did wrong and I've made amends for. But all my amends to my sons have been living amends. They have had the ability to see me over all these years change. And my 2 youngest finally said to me 2 years ago, we were talking, we were on a vacation, and they said, Mom, enough. We forgave you and understood everything about you a long time ago. You've got to forgive yourself. And it was at that time I began to make amends to myself.
Love that.
Thank you, Linda Jo. One thing that I love about you, every time I'm in the recovery rooms with you, there's one thing you always tell me. You know what it is?
I do.
What is it?
Keep coming back.
I know. I love that. And thank you for always reminding me that I need to do that.
Yeah, everybody
Thank you.
needs to be reminded.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sure there were many times where you and I were at events, parties, whatever it may be. They didn't want us to come back. We didn't get invited back because for any number of reasons. So, you know, just Lorene shares from the heart, and it's always boldly honest. And sometimes it sounds rough. And that's the first time I heard her, I went, well, you need to keep coming back. And so it kind of stuck. So we use that term a lot.
Thank you, Linda Jo. And we have my Ash over there. Ash is actually my sponsee. So I love saying that because I'm so proud of him. And it's such an honor to be your sponsor. You know, I hear people in the room and they say, they always brag on their sponsor, but I brag on you more than you realize. I mean, I really admire you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to be your sponsor, Ash.
Thank you for saying yes.
I think I told you that I was going to. You didn't ask me. I told you.
Actually, I remember vividly, you asked me if I was growing, and I said I wasn't sure if I was growing at that moment, and you asked me, do you want me to be your sponsor? And I said yes. So yeah, you made sure I was continuing to grow.
So, Ash, tell us a little about your program and tell us a little about your background, you know, how you made it into recovery, and what you do to maintain being sober.
I think y'all heard a little bit last time I was here, and actually today is actually pretty cool because today is the last day I had a drink.
Oh,
2014. So
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes. Happy birthday.
So tomorrow is my first day that I was sober. So that
Cool.
that's
Great.
special. Like I said, it was a series of fortunate events because they just happened to line up. That I'd gone to my parents' house. They gave me a book to read. It was spiritual in nature, and it hit me. Like I just flipped right to a specific part in the book, and it was talking about what affects us. The alcoholism is not only the body, but it's the mind and the spirit, and it definitely dealt with the spirit and the mind in that book. And I prayed, and I was kind of ostracized. I had ostracized myself from God at the moment, and I prayed, and I was like, I need help. And the next day when I tried to drink like I would normally try to drink, you know, I was 2.5 in, and I was like, I'm really done, and I just poured the rest out, and that was the last time I had a drink. Mm-hmm. And like y'all probably know, like, post-acute withdrawal symptoms, I had none of them. I slept peacefully that first week of sobriety. I wasn't rattling in my cage or anything like that. I was a nervous ball of Rex before I did that prayer, but after that, it was like that first week I had a little moment of peace. to be able to get into the rooms, because I didn't make it to my first meeting until the following Sunday, which was a birthday night where y'all told me I could be happy, joyous, and free and have a purpose. So,
And we had cake.
y'all did have cake. That was the first thing that y'all gave to me was
Birthday
food.
night. Sugar.
I walked in, this
Yeah,
lady gave me a
cake.
piece of cake. He was like, sit down. You're right. Y'all had cake. Y'all
We
bribed
had
me
cake.
with food, and it stuck. But like you said, y'all told me I could be happy, joyous, and free, and have a purpose. And when like the holidays are hard, they are really hard, especially that first week and first couple of weeks. So, like I went to my friend's house, I think on Christmas Day, and like I said, I hadn't been to a meeting yet. So this is me on myself. She wanted me to help build her child's racetrack. And so I'm there building the racetrack, getting it together, and then she comes in, Ash, you want a beer? No, I'm good. Still building the racetrack. She comes back like 5 minutes later. You sure you don't want a beer? I'm like, really?
I'm trying here.
I'm good. Thank you. Build this track as fast as I can to get out of here. So I got it done. I went home. My parents had already noticed that something was different because apparently I was calling them. Imagine what having a relationship will do. I mean, people notice the change before you're even willing to share it. But yeah, just if you feel nervous or uncomfortable with the situation, it is okay for you to leave.
Yes. Yes.
No is a complete answer.
Complete sinners. Complete
No
sinners.
means no, and reach out. There's a Dallas inner group that you can find resources for to help you out and get you in contact with someone that you need during this time.
Yes.
Because it is difficult and you cannot do it alone. You need some help. And there's places for you to get it. Just
Yeah.
reach out. Google is only a click away.
About saying no, before I got sober, I couldn't say no. Oh, Linda Jo, you're good at this. We need you to do this. And I got
Okay.
myself overwhelmed. I was told early on in these rooms, it's okay to say no, Linda Jo. People are still going to love and like you. What a concept. You know, for me, this person that's not only an alcoholic but an approval addict, just say no.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's not easy
Uh-huh.
for me. But the first thing I had to say no to is alcohol. And then I learned.
Right. Right. Well, thank you, Ash and Linda Jo. Danielle. And Danielle is one of my ex-sponsees. And
You're still
it's
kind of
like
my
I
sponsor.
I still boss her around. So she might as well.
There's no egg.
She might as well still be mine.
911.
No, this is the teacher. You're
911.
not your ex, your former sponsor.
Yes.
Yes. She might as well still be mine, though.
Yes.
I mean, wow. We have that bond. I don't think that'll ever go away.
No.
You know, and you always there when I call you, girl. And thanks for reminding me that I need to pray sometimes out in public.
Yeah.
I get embarrassed sometimes,
Yeah.
but yeah. But thank you for reminding me that.
Yes.
Every time you're on the podcast, you always want to pray. And here I am. Well, go on, do it
pray,
then. If you
let's
want to pray, do it.
Gotta have that
But
prayer.
I have to remember that. So share a little something about yourself, Danielle.
So, thank you for having this platform.
You're welcome.
And thank you for inviting me. You know, I want to talk about, so I was praying earlier, speaking about prayer, about what I would say about recovery during the holidays. And what came to me in the shower, because that's where all my good ideas happen, was the steps. So, you know, I've been in and out of recovery for so long, you know, just I would get it and then I wouldn't and then I would and just the in and out back and forth. And what's different this time for me is the steps, right? So what came to mind is the 4-step. And
Yes.
my 4-step, it addresses, you know, the dishonesty, right? And so I always thought that dishonesty was something negative, right? It was that I was lying, essentially. But what I've learned this go round is that right now where I'm at, the honesty, I'm in a really, really, really hard time, really hard time. But that fourth step allowed me to see the dishonesty in my thinking, which is where that freedom comes. I'm able to stay sober because I'm able to identify that dishonesty. And so the dishonesty is showing up in my my ideas of what things are supposed to look like, my ideas of what the holidays are supposed to look like. The holidays, a dishonest thought, is I'm supposed to have all of my family. All of my family is supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be sitting in front of a Christmas tree right now with all of my children and so forth and so on. But I am, in transition of a job. I am in litigation with multiple entities right now. And that is what my Christmas looks like. But I'm able to do it sober. And I'm able to, service, number one. I've been in bed for days, okay? Not been getting up, don't want to go anywhere, don't want to talk to anybody, just want to be done. And then I saw your text to come on here, and I was like, okay, that's my next right thing, But I really was, it pulled me into the steps, and I'm not going to maintain sobriety. I'm not going to be able, like I used to think that I could think my way through a situation. I'm going to be able to think my way through Christmas. I'm going to be able to think my way through this day. And all I do is I end up getting depressed because, as Linda Jo talks about, I do have outside issues that I see, a therapist for. But just really addressing that dishonesty and allowing myself permission to, it talks about in the literature about those old ideas. So that dishonesty, that more will be revealed. The more that was revealed is that the dishonesty shows up of how I think things are supposed to look. Yes. And so whether it be a holiday or whether it be a Monday or a Tuesday or a job day or a no job day or go to court day or don't go to court day, show up for my kids, don't, whatever. I have to engage in that willingness to be able. Sobriety to me today is reinventing those ideas in a sober way. I've never lived, y'all told me this, I've never lived this day before sober. So one of the biggest lies that I told myself was that I'm going to get sober and my life's going to be great. My kids are going to be great. My relationships are going to be great. I've lost everybody. I haven't lost my kids, but my friendships, things that used to work, they don't work while I'm sober. And if I have the courage to be honest about how it conflicts with my, the mental part that Ash was talking about, or the spiritual part, if those things conflict, if I have to leave a job because it's against, what y'all have taught me how to live, I think that's one of the most frustrating things in sobriety is that we get this program and we get these 12 steps and we start doing the right thing, and the audacity of this world to not recognize, like you used to always say, don't you know that I'm sober? Don't you know that I'm in a 12-step program?
And I dare you to treat me like that.
Yes. And so the world is not going to change just because I get sober. People are still going to be dishonest. I'm still could possibly end up in court. That's what I've been going through this past, couple of weeks is, how am I in 2 lawsuits and I'm sober? But the other way to think about that is you get to show up in these. It's not because I was drinking and driving or hurting somebody or doing something crazy. These are people. Life still happens.
This happens to normal people.
It happens to normal people.
So,
and I have to, because I am in recovery, because I do have mental health, I have to make sure that I am like in the center of this program, no matter what. I allow myself to be depressed. I allow myself to sleep. I allow myself to get rest. I allow myself to feel. But it's that newness of releasing, it says 417, my serenity is directly proportionate to my level of expectation. So if my level of expectation is that I'm supposed to not be where I'm at, and this is supposed to be like this, and now I'm the director and I've taken over,
You're running the show.
that will get me drunk.
Yes, because you're running the show.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I need all of you, and I need service, and I need platforms like this
Yes.
to be able to share with other people that it's okay to suffer in sobriety. That's why it says, we have a moment of silence for people who suffer in and out of the rooms.
Right.
I'm in the rooms, but I'm suffering.
Right.
But I'm in the rooms.
Yeah.
And I would rather suffer in the rooms than
Yes.
suffer out of the rooms any day of my life.
Yes.
And I have the support in here. But all of those things, I think that's what kept me going back out for so long, was that I wanted my sobriety to look a certain way. And when it didn't look that way, I would go back out. So now this is the new chapter of me being open-minded to what this is supposed to look like. And it looks really weird to me, but acceptance will
Yeah.
come to pass. So I'm just grateful.
Awesome.
I'm so grateful
Thanks,
for you.
Danielle.
Awesome. So proud of you.
Love you.
Look at you working those tools. My pretty girl.
The pretty,
Nausheen. Okay, tell us about your sobriety, how you got here, where you are. Welcome
Thank
to Silver
you.
Lining. And you know what? You just made my heart beat, because you came in and you start saying all the different podcasts that Tam and I have done, and you've already watched them. Thank you so much for supporting us and doing that,
Absolutely.
girl. That makes me feel so good.
Absolutely. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Nausheen, and I've been sober this time around since July of 2020. And thank you for having me here, because it's such a great opportunity. And, to just be sitting here, I don't know how others feel, but I know for me, I did not think this would be possible. Like, I did not envision a life where I could live without drinking or live without having alcohol in my life to some degree. The thought of, like, I can't drink and that my body cannot handle this was a hard pill to swallow. And I think that's why it's taken me so long to get here, because I was introduced to a lot of different recovery programs starting in 2000 and I would say 2013. And I had built some years, and like others have shared here, our journeys are all very different. And for me, I had a lot of relapses. I had a lot of bouts where, I would build some sobriety and then I would just end up drinking. And it got really dark and really hopeless. So to just be able to sit here with a few years and, it's really about the quality of that time rather than, the number of days, because I've learned that all I really have is today. But it's special just being here with you, because for those that don't know, when I was really struggling after having a few years in sobriety, I felt so much shame and just so much embarrassment and disbelief, and depression was bad. My world was dark. It was very small. And I remember thinking, who can I call? Like, who is going to even want to help me? Because I felt like everybody was just done with me. Like, they didn't understand. My family didn't understand. And I'll talk a little bit about that too. But I called Lorene, and, I said, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I have zero hope. And she was there. She was always there. She always answered. And I will never forget, what you've done for me, and how important that is in my sobriety, because I felt like someone believes in me, you know, and I borrowed the hope that you had because I couldn't build my hope and couldn't connect with the hope at that time. And I really didn't think that, you know, I could do this. I knew a lot of other people that had great lives and, you know, really meaningful lives, and they weren't drinking, but I just could not fathom how I would live that way. And so fast forward a little bit, it was really tough for me because culturally, you know, I'm Muslim and I'm Shia Muslim, and I grew up with this teaching of like, you don't drink, like it alters your intellect. It's not something that you need. And my parents and my brother have never touched alcohol in their lives. And then there's me who couldn't control her drinking. And it's ironic that I'm sitting here talking on the podcast about staying sober through the holidays, because in 2011, on December 25th, I was in jail because I had a DUI. And it was cold and it was dark, and I never thought that that would be something that would happen to me. You know, I had education, I had values, I had teachings, I had everything that was ever like that I would ever want was given to me. I had a great family. I had a lot of hard things happen in life, but I just, you know, I was at a loss myself because I was doing so well in other areas, but when it came to alcohol, everything just went out the window. I had zero decision-making ability, zero control. I can say all this now, but in that in those times, I didn't understand. But looking back, you know, there was no intellect. Like I just was a completely different person. I wasn't the person who was excelling in their career or who did well in college, got their master's degree, all sorts of things. It just didn't make sense. But I remember, you know, thinking about how am I going to get out of jail? How am I going to call my parents? And swearing I'm never going to drink again. And the first
we
thing,
know that.
I was in Chicago, right? Very cold winter. And the first thing I did when I got out of jail, without a car, walking in knee-deep snow, I went to the alcohol, to the liquor store to buy alcohol. And I knew something was wrong, you know? I just didn't know what to do. And so I'm really thankful today that there are so many different recovery programs, there's treatment centers, there's podcasts like this that are there to offer, you know, support, encouragement, to give people hope and a space to connect when you feel so isolated and lonely. And there's a lot of different, you know, programs out there for support systems too, you know, because since then, my family has, you know, been really open and willing to receive education because it was hard for them to understand, well, why do you drink? You know, why can't you put this down? We didn't teach you this. And so they had to learn with me why I have this problem and what I need to do about it. Because, you know, they're also, you know, people of faith, and they, you know, it was hard for them to understand, well, why do you have to go to a meeting? Whatever this meeting is, right? Like, why can't you just go pray at mosque? I'm like, why isn't that enough? Because I tried everything. I tried a lot of my own ways to get sober, which is probably why it kind of took me so long to get here, because I tried to cut corners and I tried to do it Nausheen's way, but I kept falling on my face and I kept going back out and drinking. And when I finally surrendered this time, and said, you know what, I'm just going to get out of my own self. I'm going to get out of my way. I want what you have, and I'm going to do what you tell me to do, and I'm not going to insert myself in it. It's working, you know? And there's programs out there. You know, I've gotten married since then, and I have a husband who goes to recovery support groups with me.
That's awesome.
Because it helps him just in his own life, you know. And it's really funny because if he was here, he would say, I used to think I needed to go to help you, right, to help me. But after the first or second time he went, he goes, I need to go to help myself, you know, because we are human and we all have a lot of, you know, just a lot of different things that go on in our mind. And a lot of you guys here have spoken about it. But for me, I've realized, you know, as I was thinking about this topic, I realized that alcohol it robbed me of my ability to think. And I had zero choice, zero freedom. It took everything from me. That was my experience. I didn't know that at that time. I was pretty delusional because I thought it was giving me this escape and all of this freedom. But it really isolated me to where I couldn't make choices anymore. And like Linda Jo talked about, this is so true. What has helped me stay sober is that the 12 steps, you know, whatever program it is, helps me understand that I can say no, that I can set boundaries because I was never taught these things. I don't have to go to places. I don't have to talk with people. I have a choice. But once I put the alcohol down, that was the first thing I had to do. But once I did that, I have a choice today. I can say no to people, places, and things that don't work for me because maybe I don't want to go to a concert and be around alcohol. Or, you know, maybe it takes me a while to want to go to a sporting game because there's alcohol everywhere. Right. And it's a trigger, you know, and that's okay. But the programs out there really allowed me to build that sense of confidence because I never had any, is what I realized. I thought I did, but I didn't. And it helped me realize, you know what, Nausheen, you can say no because it's more important. It became more important for me to protect my sobriety and my recovery. And the more days that I was able to do that, I started to realize that, hey, I actually have things I care about and I have things I value. And I always did, but the alcohol masked that. And I couldn't connect with my values anymore. I couldn't connect with anything meaningful. But once that wreckage sort of started to clear, I realized, like, I have so many things I actually care about. And I would much rather feel my feelings and, you know, be in some emotional pain at times and, you know, really be vulnerable and authentic and look messy, you know, but keep this. Yes. Because I know when I put alcohol in my system, things just get worse. You know, I have enough evidence for that, and I don't want any more. And so I'm just really, really grateful that, you know, I have people like all of you in my life, and I have a platform and a podcast that I can, you know, be on and also listen to because you guys are talking about some really, really important topics, and I think a lot of people feel alone out there, and, you know, you're not alone.
Hey guys, this is Lorene with silverliningnation, and we are here in London. Please do not forget to like, subscribe, and share. You know, I love doing this podcast because I get asked a lot, why did I decide to do it? I decided that I wanted to share my sobriety publicly. I wanted, because when I was a kid, there was this song we used to sing, and it was this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. And I used to get down on that song. And I used to think, I couldn't comprehend, and Ash can probably attest to this, it's like being Baptist, and Linda Jo, you're Baptist too.
Yes, I am.
We're raised that if you have something and it's good that the Lord's given you, then you got to share it and you got to let it shine. Well, when I came into the rooms of recovery, I was taught the opposite of that. I was taught that it's by attraction. You don't go out and you don't seek. And this is just me. I'm not telling you guys to do this, but I decided to be more bold with my recovery. I want to let my little light shine. So that's what this podcast is about for me. It's, I can't help someone if you don't know that I have had those experiences. Does that make sense to you guys?
Absolutely.
So this is one of the reasons I want to be open with my recovery now. And I owe that to my producer that gave me the strength to do this, because I wouldn't have been able to do it on my own. But it's not about me today. I really want you guys to, Linda, Joe, each one of us, I want you guys to tell me one tip that you would give to the listeners that would help them, that you've used to stay sober during the holidays. Or you can share about an experience that...
I have one.
Okay, let's hear
We're talking
yours.
about the holidays. New Year's Eve, 1975, my parents got a phone call. They said, if you want to see Linda Joe alive, you need to come to Parkland Hospital. I'd been out with the guy I used to date in college, and we'd been in a car wreck. I was DOA. My mom and dad got there. They said, we don't think Linda Joe will ever walk again. We don't think she'll have children. And my mother's remark was, please don't tell her that. She has a very strong will. They transferred me by ambulance. I was in a coma 9.5 days. They transferred me by ambulance to Presbyterian. And my little grandmother, who'd been in the first class at Baylor Nursing School, came over and took care of me. It was my first year teaching, the job I'd always wanted, and I had to call, and they told me not to go back to work that semester, because I can't tell y'all that happened to my body. But they said, don't go back. But I went back a little early because I didn't want to lose my contract. Well, I'd like to fast forward to the age of 50. I just mentioned I had died. I was 24 years old. Let's fast forward 26 years. I'm 50 years old. I was emotionally, spiritually, and physically bankrupt. I couldn't feel a thing. That's how I drank. When anything came up, I drank. So when I say I've died twice in my life, I sincerely mean it. When you get to you're 50 years of age, I could look in the mirror. I couldn't put enough makeup on to cover it. You know, I had the red, swollen face. And my friends, my ex-husband had the courage to say, we love you, Joe, but we can't help you. When you get to the point in your life, and that was New Year's Eve. So every New Year's, I will go to a party perhaps with friends, but I always take my own car or take a friend of mine that's sober.
Yes.
I have a dear friend at a former group I used to attend, and she said, LJ, I got a 2-drink limit. She goes, yeah, they have 2 drinks, and I'm out of there. And that kind of makes sense, you know. But I was not a social isolate like a lot of people say I was isolating. I wouldn't. I was a girl that was out there. My best friends even did a mini intervention on me before the big one came.
The big one.
Yeah, that's why I say, they said, Linda, you got to quit drinking. You're going to kill someone. And, of course, I pulled my favorite line, well, I'm going on a diet. Because whenever I wouldn't have died, I quit drinking. Well, let's just say that, you know, Weight Watchers and I did not become intimate. And 5 months later, I had the intervention that took me to rehab. But, you know, we talk about, and I'll say I've died twice in my life, but every New Year's Eve. Now, after 20 years, I can say, I got another year. You know, I never thought I'd end up with 20 years sober.
Wow.
You know, and here I am, you know, 70 now, and I'm looking forward to New Year's Eve. I don't have a fear of driving. Even take my own car. I don't, you know, sometimes there's a lot of people out there that are acting up, but, you know, as long as you're spiritually fit, and I take someone with me generally. I generally go out with people, and people have a lot of different tips. Another thing is I have a son that's a master distiller and one that owns nightclubs. They're master bartenders. They have created for me some of the most beautiful mocktails. I love it. And they are so good because they know what they're doing, you know. So anyway, the holidays, they can be, it can be kind of rough for me now because I don't have all the boys at home with all the Santa and all the toys. But I have friends that I can go to, and I'm real grateful for that. But the holidays, they can be real happy. We talk about happy holidays, but keep yourself spiritually fit. Stay tied to all your friends in the tribe that we're in.
Yes.
Don't hesitate to pick up the phone. You know, pick up the phone before you pick up a drink. That's an old expression, but that certainly makes sense. Don't hesitate. It takes a lot of courage to pick up that phone.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
I don't know. I'm really thinking about the anxiety because this time of year it brings in a lot of anxiety. I work retail, and that brings a lot of anxiety too, right? This week it's been deep breaths, like really deep breaths. It sounds simple and it sounds like something people normally, you actually don't take deep breaths on a normal basis. You're breathing really shallow. So if you're just sit there you don't even really have to get to a quiet place. It's just really in like 1, 2, 3, and then out 1, 2, 3. And you're gonna have to do it a couple times and then it'll slowly ease that whatever, I don't even know what it's called, but it's that feeling that's in there. It's almost burning and it's just like, it wants to come out, but it's just like, you just have to take full deep breaths, or sometimes you have to get out of the situation you're in.
Remove yourself.
But deep breaths, and it'll only be for a moment because none of these feelings are permanent. That's what our minds trick us with thinking that these are permanent feelings. Like all of this is temporary. All the emotions are temporary, and they will pass.
You know how long any really intense feeling lasts?
How long?
Just guess.
3 seconds.
3?
Oh, 1 minute.
Close.
I'd say 5 minutes.
30 seconds.
Wow.
And
30 to 60 seconds.
This is from a professional, a therapist. So
Because we were talking about that today, me and Tam, about the good feelings and the bad feelings. How we dwell on those bad ones. And, but the good ones, they pass just like that too.
Yeah.
But the bad one,
When we
That means we
I
ruminate.
ruminate.
Yes, that means we're
ruminate.
holding on to the negative emotion and making it last longer than it needs to last.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when there's a really uncomfortable feeling, because we teach, right? There's comfortable feelings and there's uncomfortable ones. All feelings are feelings, right? So if we don't judge them, then any feeling, if we're not in that loop of negative thoughts that are associated with the emotion, and we just create a little bit of space, it's going to pass. Maybe 60 seconds. But the deep breathing tip, I think, is really helpful.
Awesome.
I had an older gentleman at one of the groups I went to one time that would say, what I do is go in with God, out with anxiety. That was his favorite.
Awesome.
Simple.
Yeah, I like the breathing.
Yeah. I did that today in the car.
I did it yesterday all day long.
I did it in the car.
We don't breathe. We don't walk
really
around
don't.
really breathing.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your tip?
Yeah, I like that.
My tip is, I think you said it good. It's not placing judgment, on anything really. Things are going to happen, and I remember what's funny about this whole trend of the holidays. So December 31st of 2014, I had an ankle monitor on. I had a monitor in my vehicle, and I had one in my house. I was in outpatient treatment at a facility in Dallas.
All that.
Yes. 3 sponsors, okay? 3 sponsors. I had a sponsor at one group, another sponsor at another group, another sponsor at another group. And I said, okay, so surely, it talks about that beyond human aid. So I never knew what that really meant. But here I sit with 3 sponsors in outpatient treatment and 3 monitors in 2014, and it's New Year's Eve. I've got a debit card in between my ankle monitor,
my goodness.
so it doesn't register that I've got alcohol in my system, and I'm picking up a drink. And that is, I came into to the rooms in 2001. So
Who told you that trick?
Just, good alcoholic in me. Just comes up with anything. Let's just put this, because a no read is better than a bad read, right?
I thought it's because you matched your limit out in the credit card and didn't want to use it again.
No, I put because the monitor, if y'all have one, any of y'all that are listening, the monitor will detect every 30 seconds if you have any alcohol in your system. So I put the barrier between the monitor and my ankle. But anyways, the whole point of that is I remember like in that moment when I put the debit card in between the monitor and I was sitting at the bar on New Year's Eve of 2014, that's when everything of the program clicked. And I was like, this is what it looks like to be powerless. And I was so scared.
Yeah.
Like, so scared.
That's powerless.
I was like, oh my God, it's real. Like, there's no other, y'all told me there was no other solution other than going to the bitter end. So I'm like, oh my gosh, but just
I bet I know what your resolutions were.
yeah. Oh yeah, that's when I met Lorene, and I was like, we got to get in these steps. Yeah, I got to do what they said, but but I think it's just the maintaining the sobriety. Like it's easy to relapse, right? It's so easy to relapse.
Well,
but
it happens it happens up here before you even do it.
Right.
So, yeah.
And it's so easy to just say, you know what, screw everything, this doesn't look. And being that the logic part of it is that the feeling's going to pass in 30 seconds. So why would I go and get another life sentence over a feeling? Not another one. I've never had a life sentence. But that's what would happen if I picked up.
It, doesn't it?
Right? It does.
Yeah.
And so taking that judgment, when it comes to maintaining the sobriety and all of that, everything's not instant, right? Like I can't just pick up a good feeling like over and over and over again. Like I have to, like I could pick up a drink, right? I have to say, okay, here's the situation. How do I feel about it?
Yeah.
Have I talked to somebody about it? What step am I on? Go through this whole process, of mulling that over.
Yeah.
But the key is not putting judgment on it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like that. Like that.
Let it just be what it is. And I remember y'all told me when I was new, you said, it's just another day. You told me that. It's just another day. It's just a holiday.
Yeah.
It's still another day.
Yeah. But they make it seem so glamorous and everything's so pretty and it's just you think everybody do this and I'm missing out on something and I've got to feel good. So I got to have a drink.
Yeah.
How else am I going to celebrate
What
the
about
holidays?
that comparison trap?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you get that pour me
Yeah.
pour me a drink. The best thing that we can do, holidays or whatever, is to get outside ourselves and help someone else.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm pretty lucky. I've been blessed. I think many of us at the table. Be of service.
Oh, yeah.
There's plenty of service that's
Number
needed.
one thing.
Yeah.
What you got, baby girl?
So I've been thinking, about practical tips that I wish I would have gotten these. And I think a lot of you have touched on it, but I think whoever your support is, whether it's grandparents, friends, parents, you got to speak up. Like I had to learn to speak up and ask for what I needed because people can't read my mind, even though I wish they could. I mean, that would be so nice, right?
Yes.
Because it was so hard for me, and it still can be hard to ask for help, or to really share I'm struggling, right? Because again, I have really high, unrealistic expectations of myself and where I should be and maybe what others expect of me. And a lot of times, all of that's just so far from the truth because there's these stories and narratives in my head, right, that I start to tell myself for days and years, and I believe them if I don't talk about them out loud, right? So I would say, like, a tip would be to just ask for what you need, talk about it. Like Linda Jo said, pick up the phone. That was so hard for me. I would pick up the phone after I drank or after I was in enough pain and trouble. And when I started to really just, talk to Lorene and pick up the phone and say, what can I do before I get into this space? I was never met with anything but love and kindness and empathy and, understanding. But my mind always told me otherwise, right? My mind told me they're going to judge me. They're going to think I'm stupid. Why can't I get this? But, there are people out there that I think, they're in our corner. And if you don't know somebody, call a support group out there. It doesn't have to be somebody Sometimes the best people to help us are complete strangers because they don't know us. They can't judge us. They don't have any information, but they're willing to be of service, right? Like Linda Jo said. So that would be my practical tip.
I like that one.
I love going to out-of-state meetings and just dumping all my trash because I know nobody knows me out there. So I'll go on New York, Chicago, Trinidad. I'm like, y'all, listen, this is what she did. This is what he did. This is what they did. Thanks for the meeting. Love y'all. Bye.
She's one of those people that don't, you get some people that ever come to a meeting, they stay away from a meeting for a whole month.
Yeah.
Then they come in, they thought of all their stuff, and then they leave early.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
I'm
Bye.
like,
See you later.
really?
Yeah.
Hey,
And I
whatever
gotta leave early.
Oh, it feels so good.
Just
But I
throw up
think
on
that
us.
that's a fear of people. Like I know being in the industry, like I'm in real estate. So one of my biggest fears is being transparent in the rooms because there are other people. Some people aren't going to stay in the room. Some people are going to go back out. So if, there's really no excuse to getting on to a meeting because you can go to Africa, Trinidad, or wherever. They don't really give a crap what you're doing, and just go pour it out there, say it, and leave.
Yep.
And then, and then bring the solution to the local meetings.
I can't choose.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think, just to kind of level it out, if you want a meeting, there's one available any time of the day or night.
You can always find
We're
ours.
here in North Dallas area. There's
Oh, man, we have
any
so many.
number. I mean,
So
if you
many.
want a meeting. But then again, let's say you wake up at night. That's a lot of time when everybody's, the stories that we tell ourselves. You can get on a meeting.
Yes.
Oh,
need
yeah,
it.
Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thankfully,
It's-
the pandemic opened.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I know a lot of people who have been able to stay sober virtually over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And I mean, when I see people doing that, I think anything is possible if
Me
you're
too.
willing to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's all about the willingness.
Yeah.
That's the key word.
Like I said, at 50, the intervention for me was significant. And I needed to be at rehab for 34 days to look at myself, to be properly diagnosed. I have tremendous admiration for people that can seek a tribe, a group, and walk in and say, I need help.
Yeah.
I needed.
You needed,
And I
the
need more help
treatment center.
sometimes than AA can give me. I need outside help. And it says
Yes.
seek,
that.
seek
Yes.
that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've never been to a treatment.
We went to jail.
Yeah,
That was our treatment.
leave it to this one.
She ain't gonna let anything pass.
I'm like, I can't pray. I can't do
I don't
nothing
know
with
how
this.
you were treated there, but
I don't even know how Eva was her sponsor. It's like she telling you need to pray, Lorene. You've been to jail, Lorene. I'm like, do
That was our treatment.
I need
How long
my
do you wanna
conscience
do
over
this?
here?
Yeah.
well, whether you've been to treatment.
My truth.
Treatment or not,
Yeah.
there's so many places out there where you can go if you need help.
Exactly.
A lot of people
Exactly.
can't afford it,
Exactly.
but you can't afford not to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places that offer scholarships, and you can
I
get
tell you
help
one
for
thing.
free.
I used to get really mad in the rooms, and I ain't meaning no harm about this. I used to get so mad every time I'd be in the room, and y'all would say, none of the women had DWIs. I had the DWI, and it wasn't a lot of black women in the room. So y'all sitting there all prime and proper. Well, I ain't got no DWI, and I used to get so mad. I used to say, "Cause I got all the damn DWIs for you."
No way.
Well, you bring up a good point, because the other thing I was gonna say, I was thinking about, is during the holidays, when I was drinking, I felt like that's all people do. Like everybody drinks, right? Because
Exactly.
I wanted to drink. I didn't want my drinking to be
Yes.
controlled. I was friends with people who drank like me. But as I've gotten sober, I've realized, wow, like I go to dinners with colleagues. I go to like events, back from my community and faith, all sorts of different events. And there are a lot of people who don't drink. And I was just, the more I stay sober, the more I'm baffled at, like, there are people who are sober during the holidays. So you may not know them yet, but if you look around, or if you, open your eyes outside of your environment, I guarantee you'll find people. But you have to kind of step out of your comfort, because I know for me, I was surrounded by people who behaved like me and, made the same choices because it was fitting, and it took a little bit of venturing out there to really find a different group.
Yeah.
Because-
Lorene, I believe you've had more than one DUI.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
no, the reason I'm saying that, let me share something. In college, the year I graduated, I was in a wedding, and I had 6 girls in the car. I took an access road. The next morning, they were all in the hospital. I could have killed them. And we talked about repeating the same behavior over and over. Y'all, that was when I was 24 years old. Repeating the same behavior over and over. You want to ask me how many times I had my 3 beautiful sons in the car? They're wonderful men now, by the grace of God. So I was repeating the same behavior. I didn't have a DUI, but I repeated that same behavior over and over and over. And I learned at rehab the selfishness of that. You put those babies, your beautiful sons in the car. I did. And that's, so we talk about repeating the same behavior. Whether I had a DUI or not doesn't matter. I suffered.
Exactly. Well, I had to learn it from Ash, because we've discussed this before. Like I was saying, how resentful I used to be when I would be in the rooms, and the other women would share, and none of them had DWIs, but I did. So I learned from him, because when I started sponsoring him, he started talking about, because he never had a DWI, but he started describing how I felt on the inside, the darkness, the 4 horsemen, and the shame. And when he described that to me, it was like he was saying to me, Lorene, I didn't have to go get a DWI or be court ordered to be in these rooms. I still go through the same thing that you feel inside. And that made it click with me. And that way I was able to give up that resentment that I was holding against other people who hadn't got a DWI.
It's our shared experiences.
For 26 years, I continued to put people in the car on the drink.
Because it's the emotions, right, that we bond over, that we connect over.
Yes.
We can have different experiences, different situations, DUI, no DUI, kids, not having kids, jobs versus losing jobs. I mean, all of those things can be the same or different, but it's the feelings that we endured and that we put others through that we can work together on.
Yes.
Right.
It's being able to connect and relate.
Yeah.
That's what bonds us. And that's the language that we speak, that we can't speak with anyone else that doesn't have this disease.
They don't get it.
They don't get it. It's, and that's why we are here discussing for the viewers, tips and things that we've done to stay sober during the holidays. It, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, it is a difficult time, and with all the glamour of, the drinking. And I mean, it looks so pretty on the commercials, and everywhere you go, that's what you see, right? And they make the models so glamorous, and it's like, oh, you got to fit in.
Yeah.
Social media everywhere.
Because
That's what
people
you
don't
see.
do anything anymore without drinking,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Everything
It's just
you're
ingrained
asked
in
to
our
do.
subject.
Yes,
You
it
want to meet
is.
over drinks. You want to
Yeah.
meet over dinner. I mean, everything
Yeah.
has to involve food or drinking. And it's also everywhere, whether you go to the arcade or you go to the movies.
Yeah.
And it can be very, lonely for someone who's trying to stay sober over this like really hard extended period of time.
It is.
You also learn who your real friends are.
Yeah.
Because
You
you're
know.
going to lose a lot
All of 'em.
of people that will no longer want to be your friends if you're not drinking and drugging anymore, because you won't have anything in common with them.
Yeah,
And you might be bored with them too.
that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My buddies in high school, I grew up here in Dallas, and I'm still included every year when they all go to the beach. There's a big party next week, and it made me realize they don't care if I drink or not. They want me there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
are true friends.
And they like my humor, and I like theirs. They don't care if I drink.
Yeah.
And I think they're glad they have a designated driver.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I totally agree with that. What do you
I
think,
think I
Ash?
have a quick question.
Okay.
Because, like, I know when you're newly sober and things are starting to shift, your mind is floating everywhere, especially during this time of year. But, like, regrets start to pop up into your head. How do you extend yourself that grace during this period of year where it's really, really difficult?
Regret meaning
Over anything, because like I've had sponsors that are like, how do I deal with regret, and they want to go to a men's process. They haven't even worked any of the steps yet, but that's like what happens this time of year. Like things that they've used to done or have done
Okay.
in the past pop up into their minds. What do you do with that?
I pray, but yes, ma'am. Who would have thought? Yeah, I pray, and it's so funny, thinking about praying. I
She
used
talked about it in her episode. The first
Yeah.
thing she does is get on her knees.
I get on my knees every morning. It's just publicly. It's
I
like
just can't get up at 70
know.
anymore if I get on my knees. So I kind of,
Yeah, I pray, and I've got to write it. Sometimes if I got to get it out of here. So writing it down, I got to write it down. And I've been taught by my sponsor, when I write stuff, just write it. Don't even think about how good it sounds. Don't think about anything.
Unfiltered.
But always put at the top, I put Dear God. And then I start writing. Yeah. Then I start writing. And it works. I mean, it
What if
works.
you don't believe in God?
Oh, I got something
Well,
funny.
well, you don't have to, but if you have a sponsor, what did I used to
I got
tell
something
you?
real funny.
What did I used to tell you?
So Lorene, when I first came in, we were on step 2, and she said, I want you to write down all of the characteristics of what you would want in a best friend. So my little, healthy dose of narcissism that I have, I don't know if it's narcissistic or alcoholism. I haven't figured it out yet. But I was like, oh, isn't this so sweet? She wants me to give her the guidelines of who I want her to be in my life. So I thought it was so sweet. I was like, okay, so she wants me to make a list of this best friend. I'm like, well, I want to be able to come to her with all of my, stuff, that she won't judge me, that, she'll take me as I am, so forth and so on. So I'm writing down all of these characteristics, and I was so excited, like when we were going to meet to do our
I
step
know where
2,
this is
so
going.
that I could show her.
I know
I
where
could
this-
show Lorene. I'm like, okay, here's who I need you to be, Lorene. And she was like, Lorene looked at me and she goes, I go, isn't that cool? And I felt this warm feeling in my heart that we had just become best friends. And that's when Lorene looked me dead in my eyes and she said, let me tell you something. I am not here to be your friend. She said, I'm here to save your life.
Yep.
She goes, and that right there, my friend, is your step 2, and that's your new conception of God. Moving right along.
Right.
Let's go down. And I'm like, wait, what just happened here?
Well, no,
What do you mean?
I have a book I use with my sponsees, and it has characteristics that they have about themselves.
Yeah.
And then you go over
I
and
like
you see
that.
and you match it. It's
Oh,
basically
okay.
the same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. It
Because
sounds
being a
like it.
teacher, I like to have homework.
Right.
So it has
Yes.
an outline for you to do
Yes.
it, but it's basically the same instead of you writing it down.
Yeah.
I
know.
like that.
Yeah.
I'll show it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, share that with me.
It's a good
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
And it's for anybody in any 12 step. It's called The Gentle Path.
Awesome.
I like that.
Awesome.
It's a wonderful. I use it a
But
lot.
that was my most valuable tool, which you gave me, Lorene, because now I had, it was almost like just the paradigm shift of you asking like, what qualities would I seek in a best friend? Me having you as, God with skin on it, and then having this completely different conception of who it was that I was trusting with this information that I'm passing on to. It was no longer, my faith is still the same. It's just my concept has changed of who it is that I'm dialoguing with. And that's somebody who,
I'd
they
like,
can come in
to,
any
I'd like
form.
to address regrets. I don't know.
Yeah.
We have that portion that says we don't want to forget the past nor
Not
wish to
shut
shut
the
the door
door
on
on
it.
it. I love
Sometimes
that.
when you have that desire and you really want to drink, I have to look back at my last bad drunk where I did something morally and ethically wrong that I would never done had I not been drinking. That's part of my past that helps me stay sober,
Correct.
Okay.
reflecting on those.
That's like the bottom that we write about.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And Linda
Yeah.
Joe, how do you, so being the person that you've become, and in sobriety, people don't heal as we heal, right? We heal, people do whatever they do. So what would you say to somebody that's getting sober, and you've got this, in my experience, all this dialogue of them trying to treat you the way that I know you've experienced this, treat you like who you were, because they don't see that
They
growth.
can't see you.
And they don't,
And it
they still
hurts.
see you as the same
yeah.
person, and living underneath
Yes.
that heavy hand is destruction in its finest.
I experienced that recently.
We look at our character defects,
Yeah.
and one of mine is I'm an approval act. I want people to love and like me. And
Yeah.
back in my past, when I was drinking, I'd wake up the next morning and realize I made all these promises. Broken promises were huge for me.
Yes.
And I don't know what got me in more trouble, because everybody knows I'm loquacious. And, as a person who talks a lot, I don't know what got me in more trouble, alcohol or my mouth. And
Same.
you put both together.
Same.
You put those two together, and it is, but it's a lethal combination. I'd wake up and go,
so lethal.
did I just promise I'd take them to Las Vegas with me tomorrow?
Oh my God.
So these broken
Yes.
promises, and
Yeah.
there's still people that get on me, especially my family, about my talking and repeating.
Same.
And I remember sitting with the psychiatrist at the rehab I attended, and it was almost harder for me to understand that disorder than it was my alcoholism, because they said, we need you to go to these 12-step meetings. And then looking at my other disorder, and I cried.
Yeah.
Because I said, I didn't want to be that person that interrupted. I didn't want to be that person that talks all the time, because also when you're doing that and people are talking, you're thinking about what you're going to say,
Yes.
and you aren't listening.
Right.
By sitting in certain rooms at groups I'm in, I have learned to listen. I'm a much better listener. But people still jump on me about that, and it hurts, but it's a good wake-up call for me to remember how bad it used to be, and I'm a work in progress.
Right.
Right. It's progress, not perfection.
I'll never be there.
Well, and you have
love
your own
that.
idea today, I'm sure, after 20-something years. You have your own idea of who you are,
Yes.
right?
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that we have to give ourselves that grace. Like this is, coming up on year 4 again. But, when people project my past on things that I've done, who I was before, what you can find on the internet, that's not who I am.
If my
Right.
sister were to walk on the door, she talks like I do. We can fill each other's sentences. We're both very loquacious and talking, and we interrupt each other, and it's not attractive. People get worn out by that.
Yes.
But I am better. I'm not great, but
Yes.
I realized my sister's just like that, and she's not an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Well, in the program, whatever it is that you do, whether it is a program or not, it could be a therapist, whatever resources you're using to get better. I think one of the gifts of staying sober and developing that emotional sobriety is that we develop a sense of confidence and like I can validate myself. And sure, it's still hard because I still want my mom's approval, right? I still want approval of others that I care for. But
That's human nature.
Right. Yeah. But I've learned over the years that, the longer I stay sober, the more healthy supports I have in my life, I've learned that, I can still have those relationships and be proud of what I'm choosing to do. And, I don't have guilt anymore because I know I'm making the right choice today.
Yes.
I'm not lying.
Yeah.
I'm not hiding
Yes.
something.
Right.
I don't
Awesome.
have
And you don't need
secrets that are
anybody to
keeping me.
validate it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
right.
it's a part of growing up too, I think, where, and it happens a lot later for some of us. For me, it happened a lot later in life because I didn't learn all these things, growing up. And maybe it's because my parents didn't learn it from their parents. It's
That's
generational.
that's how it starts.
Family
Step
Generation.
4.
Yeah.
That's what we learn.
But you guys have taught me, right?
Right.
That I
Yeah.
don't have to have everyone's approval.
Right.
And that, what I think and my own self-validation is equally important sometimes. But I don't have any of that if
Yeah.
I'm drinking.
Yeah.
Because I cannot think and I cannot trust my thinking. There's
What
no
I
room for
think
that.
is not right. It's not rational reality. So I have to have someone else that I can bounce those thoughts off to say, is this really what's going on? Or and that's my sponsor because she can bring something. I can run something by her, and it's totally opposite of what's actually really going on.
Yeah.
I've always said
You
the
know.
worst conversation I have is with Linda Joe. What a conversation! Yeah.
It's that
It's
that
a dark
village up
alley.
here. It's that village.
You should never go into alone.
But the hardest people for me is family.
Yeah.
They know how to push my buttons
That's
more
'cause
than anyone.
That's because you created. I
Linda
often
Joe.
tell. It's a
This is
Linda
her famous
Joeism,
quote.
one of my favorite things. No one can get to me like my boys. They know exactly what it takes to push my button.
Yes,
you know
ma'am.
what? I created those buttons.
You can unplug it as soon as you can.
Oh yeah.
Well, I've learned, and I had some experience, when I was on my little trip, about resentment, after you make your amends and you think it's over with.
Oh, yeah.
I've already done that, and let's move on thing, right? And you go back and it's like, we need to address this because I don't feel, I feel mistreated here. And it's like, what are you talking about? I don't even remember, right? And, it made me feel some sort of way.
Well, my favorite thing is to say I have trouble getting angry because it goes back to the fact that people aren't going to love and like me. I'm not going to get angry with them. But I've learned to say, because people do get mad and angry with me, I said, I'm a woman of honor and integrity, and I don't deserve to be treated that way.
I like that.
I like that too.
That was the simple one because I'm not good at yelling. People call me crazy. Don't call me a bitch a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm honest about that. But
Right. Well, I'll say, you know what? That hurts my feeling when you talk to me like that. Can you not yell at me? Or
I
can
don't
you-
deserve to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we can't control people, right?
That's true.
Exactly.
Powerless.
So we can set boundaries, and if
Right.
they're not listening, the
Then
freedom
I-
of sobriety is that I get to choose to lead.
Who I want to be around.
Yeah, and
you
I
can
don't have to
exit
deal
at
with
I
any
can
time.
exit. I can go home.
Anytime.
Take my toys, and I'm going home.
There was a phrase they used to say all the time about the ball.
If somebody throws you a ball, don't mean you got to catch it.
That's right.
That's true.
That's my favorite.
Lorene, you dealt with that a lot. You shared your experience about the family afterward. You know?
Yeah, and I still deal with it. I think children, and the three of us have children, and we know that. And I love working with my sponsees that have children. And the reason I like working with them, because sometimes children would try to make you continue to feel guilty.
Oh, yeah.
And I let my kids know, you're not going to hold me hostage like that. You know, once I can continue to build this relationship, but I can't go back to the past and change anything that I've done in the past. So I can build, live in amends with you, but there's nothing I can do about the past.
Well, the only thing you can change is you.
Yes, except for acknowledge that what I've done did harm you, and I'm acknowledging that. I never said that I'm sorry, because you already know that I was sorry. I was a sorry-ass mom sometimes.
Well, my middle son said it so well when he was 16. He's now 36. Cole looked at me and he said, Mom, you have got to quit apologizing.
I like that.
I'm sorry. He said, Mom, you apologize once or it doesn't mean anything.
Exactly.
And he was 16
Because
years
it
old.
loses the
16.
Yeah, it loses
It loses its meaning.
the meaning if you continue to say it. So
I'm sorry.
yeah, it's like eventually it's like you're just a pity person.
Yeah.
It's like nobody wants
You got
to
to
be
change.
Like that.
That's
You
why
gotta
so many
change.
times when we look at amends, it's best to say, what can I do to make it right?
That's right.
Don't apologize. That gets
Yeah.
you off the hook.
Neither do
Yeah.
I say I'm never ever gonna do that again, because I can't say that. I don't know. It's just like I can't say I'm never ever gonna drink again. I don't know.
You don't know?
I just know tonight I'm sober. So it's not up to me what's gonna happen later on, you know, down the line, whether I'm gonna stay sober. But by the grace of God, I hope that He keeps all of us sober. You know, I think we got some work to do, y'all.
I think
No.
this year, all of us are going to have a happy new year, and I think our resolutions will be different than they
Yes,
were in the
for
past.
sure.
Yes. Well, guys, I want to thank each one of you, and I want to thank you again, Linda Joe, for allowing us to be in your lovely home.
Anytime.
Yeah, I feel so honored.
Oh,
Yes.
well,
Thank you.
if you want to make it the permanent residence of Silver Lining, you are
Love
welcome.
you.
You're welcome to bring
I
anybody
love
in
you.
anytime.
Well, thank you. Well, guys, we're gonna wrap it up on Silver Lining tonight, and we hope you guys have enjoyed this podcast. We hope that you guys have got some meaningful tips from it, and I've enjoyed each one of you guys, and I've learned so much from you guys tonight, and I thank you.
Let's all say Happy New Year.
And I want to say, if nobody tells you guys today that they love you, heard from us here at Silver Lining, we love you.
You are loved.
Bye, guys.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Year.
That was so
That
fun.